Okay, this is going to be how I make my low poly chains. So, start with a torus, you change shape. And doesn't matter, doesn't matter how high poly this isn't going in game, this is what we're using to bake onto our low poly mesh, which is a plane. So we scale that so it covers that, and then we have two ways to do this next step. We can either go to vertex paint and paint it red, or we can do it this way. Give it a material. I'm just going to call this ID. Give it whatever color you want. Let's make sure it's actually on that. Yep. Next we rename these to like chain high poly, chain high poly, and then we export them. So this is a high poly one. I've already got two here for like just testing. But yep. Export that as the high one, export the low one. And then we move over to Substance Painter. Start a new project. Select your low poly chain, whatever resolution you want. It's usually easier to work higher than go back. Now we have that. So I always do that. So then we go to, well, we first need to change our shader. So you'll start with usually that metal rough one, but we want the one, I think it's this one. Yeah, the metal rough with alpha blending. So we select that shader, go to texture painting. Okay, now we need to select our baking resolution, high poly mesh, and then we need to mess with the max frontal distance, so it completely covers the high poly mesh. Next we need to change these low poly mesh suffixes to whatever you have them in Blender. Mine is .lp and .hp. Oh, we want opacity, so we make sure we bake that. We also need to click on ID, that's something important. I use material color, so I leave it as it is. If you use vertex color, change it to vertex color. And then we bake. Nice, now that's done. You return to painting mode. And now we find our material, so I'll just use the metal material. Drag that up here. Add our black mask. Add a color selection to that mask, and then we select our color. Nice. Okay, now we go back onto this, select opacity, and for some reason, for me at least, it's always inverted, but that's an easy fix. So I just click levels, base color, opacity, and click invert. That's fine. That's all done. Another thing to note, you may still see the background, but the opacity is still there. So if we do to show you that, make a fill layer, add the opacity map. So usually just you get a bunch of stuff like this. I just type in opacity, click that, and it's gone. And in case you didn't know how to export your textures, it's just File, Export, make sure you're in the right folder, and I'm using the Blender preset. There's plenty of others to choose from. There's even a Poyomi one you can get from their GitHub. Anyway, once all that's set up, just click Export. Alright, once that's done, back over to Blender. Okay, now we're in Blender, we just need to apply our textures. So we just click on our low poly, we can just get rid of this now, I don't need it. Okay, now we've clicked on the shading tab. We need to add our textures to our material. So to do that, we just click New, we get this. We have to drag in our color, our alpha. Drag in our normal map, roughness map, metallic. Cool. And for the normal map, we'll need this. Normal map node, wrong one. The normal map node. Drag that in. Change this from sRGB to non-color. Throw in the alpha, throw in the roughness, throw in the metallic and the color. And it's going to look like this, still black. So you need to go into the material tab here, this one, change blend mode from opaque to alpha clip, and that should be sorted. Cool. So to turn this into a chain, like a usable chain, we need to add a path modifier. Let's make that a bit bigger. Okay, another thing to note as well is the curve and the chain link both need to have the same origin point, or else weird things will happen. So we start with an array modifier and a curve modifier. Use your eyedropper tool, click the curve, and now we just add as many links as we want. And to make this look more like a chain, what I end up doing is I will go into edit mode, duplicate this, rotate it by 90 degrees this direction, and just move it along ever so slightly. And then to fix this issue, I will just change the X offset a little bit, and there we have an actual chain looking object. And to change the shape of this chain, click on the curve and then just manipulate these points to make it whatever shape you want. Oh, one more thing to add. If you want to export this, all you got to do is just apply these modifiers, and then you have geometry. And yeah, then you get ready to export this to whatever software you want to use, as long as it supports alpha channels. You're good to go.